Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today we have an incredible guest who has built a reputation as one of the top realtors in Northeast Florida. Since moving to the First Coast in 2011, she has fully embraced the Jacksonville and St. Augustine lifestyle, bringing that same passion into her real estate business. A Florida native, she understands the unique charm of this area from the beaches to the St. Johns River and has helped countless buyers and sellers navigate the market with confidence. With a strong background in negotiation, years of top producing success, and recognition at the highest levels in her brokerage, she is an agent who is consistently delivers results. Her commitment to excellence, communication, and strategy has made her a go-to professional in the industry. If you want to learn from one of the best, whether you're an agent looking to elevate your business or a buyer seller in search of an expert guidance, this episode is for you. Let's welcome Gail Long to the show.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming down. I appreciate you coming in. I'm really interested today in digging in and, what are you doing? There's a lot of commonality of the top producing agents, but yet everyone about this business does it a little different.
So, well, thank you for having me on. I'm super excited. Honestly, I am not inventing the wheel. I got into the Buffini system. I started 2 weeks into real estate, and that is how I run my business. So relationship referral based, and that is my focus.
So you just right off the bat you were into Buffini?
Because Wendy Griffiths, who has been on this podcast before,
yes.
We were with the same brokerage at the time, and while we weren't in the same office, she came to a monthly meeting to say she had an upcoming class that she was teaching for peak producers. And
because she's part of the Buffini
she's a trainer,
coaching.
Yeah. So, yep. And I didn't have anything else going on. And, I thought, okay. And I mean, just from the get-go, it was how I wanted to do business. And
light bulb went off and it's like,
yes,
I can do that. Yeah.
And, Wendy didn't have a choice. I said, you're going to be my mentor. And that's kind of what I've done. And, I think that some people get, I've been 10 years now, and some people get bored and looking for other things, but it's just proven to be successful. So that's what I keep doing.
Well, one of the things we're gonna talk about, and I should have prepped you, but you'll handle it fine. But consistency, and you found something. One, the light bulb went off. Two, you said I could do that. You saw yourself doing it, and then now, I mean, the consistency over the years has proven fruit.
Correct. And sometimes I think I do things off of what I am attracted to and marketing wise and everything like that. And I know that's not necessarily the best way because not everybody thinks like me. But for example, we do a monthly mail out, and I'm not great. I don't open the mail if it comes, especially if,
your own personal,
yeah. And so I mail these things out, and I've not missed a month in 10 years.
Physical mail.
But it has my real estate logo, the stamp, the return address, and on the back it has the sticker, I'm never too busy for your referrals. And so my thought is, even if they don't open that, month after month they're seeing my name, and
right.
So that is one of the things that just the consistency, the process of following their system, I don't have to think about it. Like, right. I know what's happening.
Right. No, you hit on something that's very important. I have had discussions with different people. Social media doesn't work. Okay, well, how do you measure that? Because I don't, there are people obviously said they've obviously gotten, if someone direct messages you from Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and you don't even know who this person is, you could say, oh, they must have saw my social media. Now again, but as we were just having discussion earlier, people are using social media after they, if they don't know you, they're coming from another area or something, they're using social media to kind of get, who is this person? Oh, they're saying Gail's a top agent in Northeast Florida. Well, okay. Well, who's Gail? Let's go in and start looking. So you don't know whether it came from social media or not, but I think it was, I want to say it was Josh Rogers. Stop doing social media and see what happens. For example, in your case, do you know you're getting it from the mailer? stop doing the mailer and see what happens to your business, right?
It's a layering system. It's not just the mailer. It's the client parties. It's the handwritten notes. It's the staying in contact with them on a relationship basis.
Yeah.
I tell people at closing, you're not done with me. You can't get rid of me. And so that's one of the things. It's not just a mailer. No. It is the whole system of continuing to stay in contact with them. You know, I tell them I want to be a real estate resource. It's the whole process.
Well, just to strengthen what you're saying, which I'm excited that obviously you bought into a system, you're into, and if of all those parts that you were just going over, someone said, well, is the handwritten cards really getting that, or the other man? Well, I don't know. If I took it out is the only way I would measure it, but why am I taking it out? Because my business has actually grown, so I may be getting 10% from that, 15% from the handwritten cards, and all these different pieces that you're doing, because it's hitting people from multiple ways, multiple mediums.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, I'm not under the illusion that everybody opens an email, that everybody opens the monthly envelope that comes. However, it's just the repetitiveness of seeing my name, knowing that consistency.
Exactly. No, I think your attitude when that first statement you made, my stamps on the front, my little referral stickers on the back, and that whether they actually open that envelope at that time, they're getting it. How often you send it? Monthly. They're getting it monthly, and in that moment they think of real estate. That's all that matters.
Yes.
You don't care that they opened up and read, hey, the interest rates are this, because they might not even. They're not buying or selling right now, but maybe they all of a sudden that weekend on a barbecue, somebody says something about buying and selling. Oh, well, you need to call Gail.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That is what it's all about. That's a great story right there. I'm going to just take a moment so I don't forget here. I want to talk about Remy Graphics. They do these great mugs for me. You have a nice hot pink one in your gift bag there, Gail. They do all sorts of laser engraved gifts. They will actually do one-offs. So remygraphics.com, remygraphics.com. So if you want to do some housewarming gift, you just want to make a couple of them for the couple, put their names on it, whatever, put the address, whatever. Obviously, the more you personalize it, they're never going to throw that away, and they'll always remember who gave it to them there. So remygraphics.com for your laser engraved gifts. All right. Let's go back to get everyone a basis of where Gail's from. You're from Florida, but not Northeast Florida.
Correct.
Did I understand?
Correct.
Yeah, tell us a little bit.
I was born in Miami. My sister and I were both born in Miami, but then we moved to the Clearwater, Tampa area. Which I kind of feel like that's the St. Augustine, Jacksonville area. We drove a bunch growing up. I went to private school, so in the Clearwater, Tampa area. So lived there, graduated from Tampa Prep, and then went to Florida State. And I met my now husband. We got married in 2002. I got my master's, and he was still in school, so I didn't want to look for a job other places. So then we bought our first home in Tallahassee, had our sons in Tallahassee, and his job brought us here in 2011.
Okay.
So kind of everywhere besides Orlando, I kind of feel like I touched, throughout the state.
So when you're going to Florida State, I mean, what did you envision yourself doing? What kind of career did you see yourself in?
So my mother was a teacher, and I followed that footsteps for a couple reasons. I think natural teacher, and I still use some of that guidance in my real estate career, but I also liked that as a mom. She was home during the summer. She drove us to, our after school activities. And so that lifestyle
you saw yourself in.
Yes.
So did you actually get in and do some teaching? Or?
I did. Both my undergraduate and master's are in education, and I was a kindergarten teacher. And then the year that my husband got transferred over here, it was a slow real estate market. And so we said, okay, we'll put our house on the market in Tallahassee, and hopefully, by Christmas, because he came over here in September, and we thought, by Christmas we'll transition. I won't, I'll leave the school year, the kindergarten class. I didn't want to, but during the middle, that Christmas break. Well, our house didn't sell until May, and so September to May we were on the market. My oldest son was 5. I had a 3-year-old, and luckily, I do not want to say, it was so hard, because I know military families can't see each other for months, but I was trying to sell the house, being a teacher, had the 3 and 5-year-old. I was like, all right, I'm done
Was
with
he coming? He was coming home on the weekends, type of thing.
He did, yes.
Yeah.
He came home during the fall, and then when we were still over there in the spring, we thought, let's learn about our new city. So we started coming over here on the weekends.
Oh, smart.
But at that point, I was like, I can't get away from 5-year-olds. Like, I'm with them during the day. I'm with my son, and
Right.
And so when we moved here, I was like, I don't want to be a teacher anymore. But.
So when you left Tallahassee was the last time you taught?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I actually, I lived in Tallahassee, but I taught in Thomasville, Georgia. So.
How kind of commute was that?
It was about 30 minutes. I think I've driven 30 minutes my whole life.
Well, in Jacksonville, everything's 30 minutes.
Exactly.
Everything's 30 minutes in Jacksonville.
But yes.
You got to put it in the GPS, though, to make sure it is 30 minutes, because sometimes it could be 45 minutes an hour, depending on what direction at what time of the day you're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting there. So so you experienced a market as a true seller with that house sitting on the market for almost 9 months.
Yes,
there.
I did.
In understanding, obviously, the personal stress drain on you. Yes. As a seller doing that. So you come to Jacksonville, you don't go back into teaching. Mm-hmm. What happens then? Is this when you start getting a feel for real estate, or what? No.
Well, I am not. I think I'm a good entrepreneur now, but I did not have that spirit. Mm-hmm. Nobody in my family was an entrepreneur, so I looked for a job. And I actually found one that I really liked. I worked at Nemours. They had a community outreach program called Bright Start. And it was good for me because their focus was on helping like preschool teachers and parents of children birth through 5 help their children with activities so that when they got to school, they'd learn to read. Right. So we weren't trying to teach 3-year-olds how to read. We were just giving them the language experiences and things like that so that they were ready to read, because the research said that a child's 3rd grade reading level is one of the best predictors of an adult health status. And so, Nemours is a healthcare system. They thought, how can we help keep children healthy throughout their life and as adulthood? So they had this Bright Start.
Interesting.
And because I had the background in education and, experience teaching young children, mm-hmm. I then got this position where I was out in the community teaching preschool teachers and parents doing these workshops, and I really liked it.
Just kind of like reading skills or how
Correct. So like nursery rhymes and like when you read a book to a child, even though they can't read, you track your finger left to right, and mm-hmm. You talk about the pictures and just doing those types of things. Yeah. And so it was great. I wasn't unhappy, and then budget cuts came and they got rid of our program, and so then I didn't know what to do.
So where are we at now? Because you got here in 11.
So 2011. So this was 2014.
Okay.
And one of the ladies who was in our program that was also, downsized, she became a realtor right away. And so I just kind of watched her and continued to look for a job, but was interested in what she was doing, and couldn't really find a job that I wanted to take, because then when going back to what appealed to me as being a teacher, having the summers and the afternoons with my kids. Well, when I went to work with Nemours, that was not it. That was a full-time year-round job. And so I thought, well, I don't want to go back to the classroom. If I am going to give up that time with my kids, I also want to like the job. And I just couldn't find anything. And so for, I think about 5 months into it, I said, I think I'm going to get my real estate license. Because I had watched her.
Okay, so there was someone you knew.
Yes.
You're watching
yes.
their business and how they were doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just that she was doing it. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how she was running her business. She didn't necessarily post that, but just that is what she did, and it seemed like okay, so
because she saw she had the ability to break away, go mm-hmm. get her kids, whatever, mm-hmm. at times, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I had a friend who, she lived here. Her sister is a big broker in Atlanta, and she was visiting one time, and she had been in the business a very long time, and she mm-hmm. just gave me some advice and said, you're not getting a job. You're starting a business. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have an income. at the beginning.
Right.
And your first year, though, like that's your learning year. It's not your earning year. So sign up for classes, do whatever you can to learn to build that base, because you're not going to be making money that year anyways. So
Right.
don't waste that time. Set yourself up, and then you move into the earnings. And so I think maybe that's why when Wendy came and was like, I have this class, I'm like, okay, I'll sign up. So that was just really helpful advice from somebody who, again, wasn't an entrepreneur, that was used to having a paycheck come.
Right.
And that mindset shift, I think, was instrumental, because I knew not to worry. And now I'm also very fortunate that I did have a good first year. I did, hit the ground running, but it wasn't like stress.
Well, would you say, or could say, because of the mindset that you adopted,
Mm-hmm.
these people, you listened to these people, Wendy gets you on Buffini fairly early,
Mm-hmm.
that this mindset that you created about being an entrepreneur and this is my business
Mm-hmm.
was probably the reason why you did have success in that first year.
Absolutely. I think so. I know that, who you surround yourself is important. And the people I surrounded myself were top producing agents, were full-time agents. Wendy would say, you can't have a plan B, because your mind will shift
Yeah.
towards that. And, I was all in real estate. Like I made this decision.
Mm-hmm.
This was going to be what I did. And so it was very much looking at setting up systems, putting things in place so that I could run a business.
All right. So this is just really great stuff, because I believe, and I've stated numerous times on the show, so many agents fall out of this real estate. I mean, they are whether they were successful, some of them never really get out of the nest, basically. Mm-hmm. But we know 80%, a good portion of them never make their first renewal 2
Mm-hmm.
years in, 24 months. They're already out. And I think a good percentage of them already checked out 2 months in,
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't have someone like Wendy inviting you, hey, you need to come to this training, or you should come to this training.
Mm-hmm.
And, whatever guided you there,
Mm-hmm.
obviously made a huge difference in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That was the road less traveled, right? I always love it's your son going to Naval Academy and going to the road. We take the road less traveled,
Yes.
And it's made all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you did, and you grasped onto something. So if you're talking, let's talk as if we're you and I are having a conversation in front of a group of people who haven't even gotten in the business yet,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just they're taking their 60-hour course or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't gotten licensed, definitely haven't gotten a brokerage yet,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe that choice of brokerage has a high percentage of you being successful or not, for a good percentage. Not everyone, because there's some people that could succeed anywhere. This is the way they are. But having made the choice, in this case, your choice led you to Wendy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what do you feel, looking back, what you know about the business and people you've seen come and go,
Mm-hmm.
about, the choices where they've made that initial brokerage is so vital
Mm-hmm.
in researching.
It is. And I didn't know, I didn't know what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the fact that my first brokerage advertised that they had a marketing department. And I am not good at graphic design. I didn't want to be the one designing my flyers. So I was like, oh, they have a marketing department. Perfect. They offered photography, those things. That's what led me to my first brokerage. However, knowing now how important a brokerage is, I would suggest to people, yes, meet with the broker, meet with the sales manager, but also maybe ask to talk to other agents that are in that office, because that's what really makes the office culture and what you want to be a part of. I think, people that have a giving spirit, that when you go into the office, they're like, how's it going? How can I help you? What do you need?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you would want to surround yourself with.
Yeah.
If you go to a brokerage where it's a competitive feeling, or people don't go into the office that, a lot,
Right.
you're going to feel like an island, and that's not going to really help you through those hard times.
Yeah. No, I think the island analogy is perfect, because I do believe a lot of agents, especially if they're young and new, and I don't speak for all, because there are some people who have gotten into this business and they have kind of done it themselves, whether they've just have great observation of what other people are doing. Maybe they follow Buffini or the others that are out there, Tom Ferry, except for example. But they feel it. I would say the EXPs, the LPTs, Real, their functionality is without an office. But yet I notice Real, which I think is really hot right now, their group here in town likes to do a lot of activities together, whether they go to trainings together or create their own trainings and get a space where they all can meet to get that culture. But if you're not going into the office, you are losing that interaction. That collaboration is the term a lot 100%. Of the top agents.
100%. And I'm not somebody who goes to the office like every day, but I do try to go to meetings. I try to go to the trainings. But the Buffini group in our area, they have a monthly meeting that allows you. So even if you weren't part of our brokerage, if you're part of the Buffini system, you get at least one lunch a month to meet with other people. I do a book club that I got into again at the very beginning. So 10 years now into this book club, we meet once a month, where it's a business-based realtor book club. So just those opportunities, even if it's not at an office, but I do think since you brought up if somebody was getting in, how would they look at a brokerage? That's what I've come to learn is important, is that feeling of camaraderie, that feeling of how can I help you? I'll learn from you, you'll learn from me. That has been impactful.
Because one of the things you said when you come into office, there's people there offering, hey, what do you need? How can I help you? Many agents don't know what new agents don't know what they need.
Correct.
Don't know where they need help. And by, regularly coming in and having conversations with people that are doing it, the conversation in that day, that might just be the topic. Well, hey, you need to, maybe you need to go to this Buffini group. That might be the topic of it. Another day might be, how are you doing these marketing? Or I'm sure you've reached a level with your production. How do I, this is a common topic on the show because I think 9 out of 10 agents are at this point. And anyone that's been on the show is either at this point or beyond it. You hit a lid of all the stuff you can do by yourself. And then well, how do I go to the next level? Well, there's 16 different ways to do that.
Yes.
Right. And you don't learn the 16 different ways unless you're having conversations with people who have gone beyond.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's like, when I said I surrounded myself with, top producing agents, full-time agents, that was one of the things I started learning, from the beginning from them, but I keep learning. Yeah. I love some of my closest friends are other realtors because I want to hear what they're doing, learn from them, be inspired by them.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier, made me think of this, and I said, this is a great question for you because I think you went through a period of you had to learn something about yourself. So making that transition from the teacher mindset and the mentor that you mentioned said, hey, you're starting your own business.
Yes.
You're not working for someone. Now you have to change mindset. What did you learn about yourself and making that transition, and in that first year going, oh yeah, this is my own business? Yeah.
I think that's what I learned is it's mine. I'm responsible, whether it sinks or whether it soars, it's on me. So that's one of the things. I don't know if you've ever met a runner that doesn't tell you they're a runner. I was a runner for years, long distance runner. And, I started with a 10K. And now I say I was a runner, meaning as an adult. I was not a runner as a child.
Right.
That was the punishment of, if you were messing up in practice, coach made you run.
Yeah.
But after my second son was born, I got into long distance running, started just with a 10K, but got into half marathons. I did a half Ironman. And, you get the training plan. And if you don't follow that on race day, you're going to be hurting. And also, the idea of getting to 26.2 miles could be overwhelming, but you just focus on what you're doing this week. Well, it's the same thing with the business, right? Like if you're not doing the training, you can't get to anywhere good. So that was my
doing some of the basics, the things you need to do every day, stretch properly, you know, eat properly, whatever those.
Well, and just go do the run. Like,
Right.
you know, you can't not run and show up and do 13 miles or 26 miles.
Right.
I mean, I do watch some people online do it, and you know, they're,
Yeah.
you know, that type of thing. But I got to every starting line of every race I ran knowing I was prepared. And I think some of that, you know, I was a runner, like I said, when my second son was born. So before I became a realtor, but I just knew that, right? Like I knew, just follow the plan. In my case, the Buffini plan, and you can't not do it and expect to have a successful business. So for me, that was what it was. But it could be somebody doing the Tom Ferry or whatever. But you just got to do it. Otherwise, it's not going to get you to where you want to go.
There's a book out I want to get, if I get the name wrong, I think it's called like Couch to Runner or something like that.
Couch to 5K.
Couch, is that what it is? Couch to 5K. And I imagine that's because I've talked to many people. I had a coworker I had years ago. He was in his late 40s and talking about, and now he is running marathons. But he says he couldn't run a half mile when he started.
Oh yeah.
But this is basically what you're talking about. It's that having that same mentality. But then the word consistency comes in behind it.
Yes.
That you have to if you consistently and you are following that plan, you're going to go an extra 100 yards or a quarter mile or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
that consistency and understanding, you know, the day you plant the seeds is not the day you get the harvest. So having that, learning that as a business owner, sometimes you feel like nothing's working. Like you said, what if you gave up? You know, what if I got tired and said, I'm not paying for the marketing from Buffini. What if you don't mail it? Okay. You might not feel the effects yet, but you're going to feel it. You have to have that consistency, whatever it is. And even in the times when it doesn't feel like it's working, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That is just a great story. Anyone listening there, I think you need to call Gail or obviously Wendy and this Buffini group. I know Exit One Stop here in town. They're big Buffini people as well. There's some other his book out, but what the other the ninja selling thing is very similar, isn't it?
So it is.
Yeah.
And I've done that as well as part of, we did it. We read the book for our book club, and through my Better Homes and Gardens brokerage, we did it. And it's a little bit more focused somewhat on the psychology of selling. Buffini sometimes will bring in people through his podcast or, you know, on stage events to talk about the psychology of selling, but that's not necessarily a system. So ninja selling is a little bit more into that, but yes, it's very similar relationships. That's, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So first year you said was, you felt was a success.
So again, I'm goal oriented.
Right.
So with my first brokerage, you got their generic branding, and you had to close 5 deals before you got to have your own branding. You know, I mean, I guess I could have gone out and got it my own, but with their marketing department. All right, first goal, 5 deals. Got it. Then they really sold relocation. Their company did. And like, okay, well, you have to have 10 deals to get on the relocation team. Okay, I got a goal. And so it gave me that goalpost to work towards. And there was a realtor, I think in any office, they're like, who wants to hold an open house for me? Right? Like, so there was a realtor that said, who wanted to open a house? And I said, I'll do it. And it was a little bit slower market. The house was overpriced. So I sat in that same house Saturday and Sunday for like the first 4 months, trying to learn how to talk to people about the house, the age of the roof, you know, what schools it was zoned for, because it was up in Jacksonville. So it wasn't in my little knowledge bubble. I had to start learning the city. And so finally I met somebody on a Sunday. They came through the open house, and they actually called me back when I left them a voicemail on Monday, and that kind of got me that momentum. And that is how and so then I just moved to another house when that one eventually sold of hers. And I did open houses for a long time to be able to meet people. I also did, and we haven't touched on this yet, there was an agent in my first brokerage that had a big book of property management business, and she was getting out of it. And so the property manager was breaking up the book, and I said, I'll take some. Yeah. And so she gave me 10 properties. And so when it would come up for rent, because they were mostly all rented at the time.
Right.
So when they would come up for rent, and I would get a call, and I'd say, I can show you, like, it's just a rental, but I was like, come on, let's do that. And so many times they didn't rent that, but I, again, didn't have a lot going on. I said, I'll show you any rental you want. Now I'm like, oh, I don't want to show a rental. But I just showed a lot of rentals. And then because I knew where they ended up, I put them on my Buffini mailing list.
Right.
And I had several people. I mean, it took 2 years, but I had several people that I had helped place in a rental come back to me. Mm-hmm. I had somebody who I placed in a rental when she, got into the neighborhood. The lady next 2 houses down wanted to move, but rent her house out. So she called me. She's like, hey, do you want to have this property management? Find another renter 2 houses down. And I was like, yes, I do. So she connected me with her. Mm-hmm. Well, that, it just builds.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that,
well, for those that are listening right now, agent wise, I mean, let's just think about, like I said, you took one of those renters, or I mean, you started with you had 10 names, 10 families, or whatever, and you put them on your Buffini mailing list.
Well, they were 10 properties.
Well, 10 properties,
but so I did, yes, I.
So you're sending them, you're handwriting them, you're doing. So what was your cost for? What's your cost per person if you're sending them every Buffini thing that you do, the handwritten cards, I imagine birthday cards or whatever, all that kind of stuff is in there. Mm-hmm. I mean, did you spend over 2 years $100 in postage? Probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you probably break it down, I mean, from your time of actually doing it and so forth, maybe you're spending a few bucks per, because you're taking time and sort of. So let's say you spent $50 over 2 years just on that one individual, mm-hmm. in the cost of the card, cost of your time, cost of your postage, and so forth. And then 2 years later, they buy a house and you're getting X mm-hmm. commission. Mm-hmm. Do the math.
Oh, for sure.
If you haven't read Ryan Serhant's first book that he wrote, he talks about in there getting started, and he was doing a postcard to a customer that he had. He showed a unit to, didn't buy, kept mailing that postcard, mm-hmm. and what he calculated when the guy ended up coming back and buying a $17 million flat in New York City, wherever, his commission off of that was like $200-something odd a day, right. between the first postcard he sent them to the time the guy says, hey, Ryan, I'm ready to buy a house now. Mm-hmm. And that was years.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, you followed a system, mm-hmm. and it's not and I think a lot of people, when they listen to Buffini, like, oh, that's not rocket science.
Correct.
He's not doing it, but what he's doing, he's what I think a lot of people need. I went to military school. Your son's going, the structure. Mm-hmm. He sets a structure for you to plug in and play. Yeah. And that's what a lot of us like. We go, okay, what do I need to do? If you're a new real estate agent right now, mm-hmm. and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to get started, got my license. Most real estate agents step in there, right? First day, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
It's not like you just joined a corporation and like, hey, show up on Monday. You're going to have training the first week, and lunch is going to be bought for you, right? They have the structure that you're going to come in and learn what you're supposed to do. Yeah. You don't have that in real estate,
right? And the advice I got, from my office manager was like, okay, you have your business cards now. Hand a business card out to somebody at the grocery store, But again, and that might work for somebody, but that wasn't me, because it wasn't intuitively, even though that first week I didn't know about Buffini and relationships. I knew if somebody handed me a card while I'm waiting to check out, I'd be like, okay, thank you, put it in my pocket, and then probably go through the washing machine. Mm-hmm. So I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. So yeah, you're like, go out and meet people. Okay, well, how am I doing that?
Yeah.
So, and it is something that I think if you can find whatever resonates for you, whatever system it is, and just follow it, because you're right, it's not hard.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's not effective.
Right. There's a lot of, and I'm sure you get them all the time. I get them all the time, whether it's about, loan officers or real estate. There's a tremendous amount of trainings out there. And I think it goes back to having that attitude that one of your mentors gave you early on was figure on the first year to learn as much as you can about real estate, plug into every education thing. And in this case, you plugged into, a gold mine of education that you bought into, and it's changed everything.
It has.
Yeah.
It has. Yes. I don't think I would have been successful had I not found it. Yes, I'm good at setting goals, and yes, they said you got to have the 5 transactions, and I really wanted that. I wanted my own branding. I wanted to get on this team, which then I learned I didn't really want to be on that team. But you don't know until you're there.
Right.
I would have wanted to do those things. I just would have probably tried a little here, tried a little there, and if without that system. And again, I don't think there's anything new, even if it's not the system. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just follow something.
Everyone's trying to find the right path, right? Like, just do this and it will work. And I think a lot of brokerages probably, that are active are trying to do that, but probably what's made Better Homes, their overall agent base successful is you have this infiltration of this Buffini group that Wendy's put together, and of course she's, being one of his certified instructors or whatever you would call it, she's involved in there, has moved the needle for that brokerage.
Yes.
And if a broker's listening right now, this may be something, or again, an agent looking, hey, where should I go for a brokerage? Maybe you need to find the brokerage that, is really bought in. And when how does it feel when you have this larger group? Because I imagine there's times, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, the grit part, where sometimes it's like, is this really working, right? We talked about, well, if we took part of the Buffini out, would it still work? But when you go to that meeting once a month, or you guys get together, or maybe just chit-chatting on the phone, someone says, oh yeah, I just got 2 from handwriting cards in the last 6 months. Okay, I need to start handwriting the cards. Yeah. It helps you keep the momentum going.
Correct, absolutely. One of the things, so I signed up for that first Peak Producers class, and it was 12 weeks long, and you paid the system. You didn't have to pay Wendy or my first brokerage, but you bought it from Buffini. Well, Wendy says, every time I hold this class, you're welcome to come back. And so I did. I didn't have to pay any more money. I just had to give my time. And it kept me engaged and reminding, oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't falter. Buffini said, hold a business mixer. And that was in the class that I was 2.5 months into becoming a realtor. He said to do it. Okay, I'll find people, hold a business mixer. I had 6 people show up, a lawn guy, a plumber, and I referred the heck out of those people. I gave them so much business because they had shown me, a little bit of friendship in
faith in you.
That.
Yeah.
And so I just followed that system and didn't want to. It would have been easy at the end of 12 weeks to be like, okay, I know this, but I just kept coming back because it was a way. I don't pay the extra coaching from Buffini because I have this group.
Well, sometimes you have to fill in the gap because you go to all these classes, right? You're taking all these notes, but how much are you actually implementing? Because there's so much information. So to be able to go back and refresh, and then from a sales standpoint, the fact that you're going back and you're Wendy has faith, because obviously she's bought into Buffini's system, she's an instructor, that she knows it works. Yeah. And the more people that are continue to come back and are seeing success, well, that's feeding her the new people coming in. That's marketing, with a huge billboard, and that's a walking billboard of someone referring people saying, hey, you need to go to that class.
Absolutely.
You having problems in real estate? Yeah, you need to go over there. And hopefully people that are listening right now, hopefully if you don't know Buffini, you're looking him up. And then, obviously I imagine Wendy's holds these courses fairly regularly right here in town.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to do much. I imagine Buffini, he obviously does a lot online because that's the only way you can serve the country. You can't, but the benefit of showing up one-on-one or in a group with Wendy, would you say is more beneficial?
100%. And I have 2 examples that it didn't work quite as well. A gentleman I went to high school with, he lives in St. Pete, and he kind of how I watched that first person who was downsized with me become a realtor and kind of watched. He is a firefighter in St. Pete, but also watched me kind of become a realtor and then reached out. He said, I think I'm thinking about that. Yeah. What should I do? And of course I said Buffini, right. And he was not in a brokerage that offered that. So he did it online, it didn't have the same impact. So
Right.
yes, you're getting the information, but again, it's that inspiration, that motivation to have that community around you so important. And then I had an agent who, she was already a realtor. We met through I think a women in real estate Facebook page or something like that. And she connected with me and she said, what are you doing? And Buffini. Well, she was up in Canada, didn't have anybody. She did it online. And actually Buffini has a big presence in Canada, but she didn't have that group and didn't have the same impact.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I also think too, I think part of doing it on the internet definitely could have a factor in it, but also for some people, for you, the light bulb went off and you're like, I can plug into this. Here's my daily schedule. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to run the play. And you ran the play and you got some results because again, you set your expectations from production fairly low your first year. So you plug in and all of a sudden you're seeing results. And of course, now again, being in the classroom, I imagine some other people are seeing some results and you just start to get that energy from that.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go back and look my first year number. I don't know what it was. I know the volume wise, but I don't know how many transactions, but it was just setting that, like I said, like the 5 and 10. So I don't know where. I got my license in April. So I would say my first year, I'm talking about 2015. So 10 years ago, really, those first couple months, I think it took me, I had my first closing in October when I got my license in April, but it did start to snowball. And
well, and I don't want to drill down on the first year, but I think this is very important too for new agents. Your sphere of influence. You had been here now for 3.5, 4 years, right? By the time you got into real estate, your husband's been working locally now 4 or 5 years in Jacksonville. What does Buffini have? And did you? Because I imagine he has a plan, that kickoff plan to reach out to your friends and family.
Correct. The training system calls it the mayor campaign. So if you happen to know anybody who needs to buy or sell, that type of thing, reach out to them. And so I actually, my children were in sports, so I knew sports parents. I knew the people from my past job, but I wasn't very social. So, but I did have a good amount of people on social media, but I didn't have their phone numbers. I didn't have their addresses. And so I sent them Facebook messengers, like, the little wording about, and I was also trying to build my database for my monthly mailing. So I've started this new training system. Would you mind if I sent you an item of value every once in a while?
Right.
And some of them didn't reply. Some of them said no, and that was sad. Although I've learned to respect the no more than the no reply. It hurts when you get a no, but you're like, at least they responded.
Yeah.
And then I had a few that said, sure. And so that's how I started getting my database. So I would get the database from the property management people that I met, the people who said yes. And my database at the beginning was very small, but it was enough to start putting the system in place. So then
I forget what the statistics are on like the amount of people that know somebody that's going to buy or sell this year. And how many people you need to reach out. I forget. It is an interesting to have stats on that. And even if you know 100 people, they know so many people that are going to buy and sell this year.
Correct. One of my big supporters at the beginning, she lived 2 houses down from me, and she had a son that was my best friends with my boys. And she said, "But Gail." Because I reached out to her, she said, yeah, but I'm not moving. And I was like, you don't have to move. You can live in this house for 30 years. But if you think of somebody, or, like if you refer me, that's all, I'm asking. I'm not trying to get you to move.
Yeah.
I don't want you to move off the street. So yeah, it's just about who they can connect you with.
Yes, exactly.
And again, what resonates with me is a relationship. I'm not just trying to, hey, who do you know right now? It's like, I care about you as a person. I want to develop this relationship over time. It will come back in the form of, I know Gail. So,
all right, I'm going to slight change of pace, but a topic that I've been bringing up in it because I mentioned Grit by Angela Duckworth before the show, and I read her book, and with all the transcripts that I have and all the stories, and I truly believe, real estate agents are really a huge part of our economy from the standpoint that housing is such a big part of our economy. Absolutely. And it's real estate agents that actually are the conduit to make those transactions happen at a much more rapid pace. Everyone could sell their home themselves. It probably wouldn't happen as fast, it wouldn't happen as smoothly, and that would, of course, slow things down. But just the real estate agents getting involved and bringing their expertise to make those things happen at a much more efficient pace. And obviously, you referred a bunch of business to those businesses that came in. It is the real estate agent that's like the concierge, especially someone moving from out of town doesn't know anyone. Yes. Oh, who do you recommend for a dentist? Just every service that you can imagine, landscaping, whatever. Yeah. The real estate agent can really be a huge influence in that. But I do believe it's not an easy business. You're self-employed. You're a one-lady show, and I'm sure there's been some situations, some times where, you've gotten some no's, too many no's in a row, that it can drag you down a little bit. Absolutely. Or a deal goes sideways and you're like, oh my God, or a sideways deal with a bad, hostile client. I mean, could really, kick you to the curb sometimes. So from the grit standpoint, I believe I call it your LLC. You have to love what you do. It's the only way you can drive through it. Because if you don't love what you do and you get a curveball, you could say, you know what, I don't like this anyway. Step out. That's your excuse. The laughter part of it, love, laughter, and consistency, laughter part of it is now you've been doing it long enough. You've gotten enough curveballs that any new pitcher comes in, I got this. And so I want you to think of something where, something that's happened in the past where now you think back and you remember that time, like maybe it brought you to tears. I don't know, and now you laugh about it. Right. And then obviously consistency has been a word we've used several times here today. So tell us why you love real estate.
It's the opportunity to add value to people during a very important time of their life. Everybody likes to think of buyers and happy times and first-time home buyers, and there are people like that, and you get to be part of that experience. But a lot of real estate is really tough things that people are going through. They're going through divorce. They're going through loss. They're going through job changes that they didn't want. And so being able to be somebody for them makes me feel like what I'm doing is important. And so I think that's why I love it. I love to be able to bring value and knowledge and comfort, or right alongside of them, joy. Right. And so that's why. Yeah.
In the award of a good review at the end, where they just go, oh my God, Gail was just, and sometimes you don't realize that during the transaction, how much they do admire you until they might hopefully leave you a good review, and you're like, wow, I made that kind of impact on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because some people don't always express that. I had actually a couple customers here in the last few months talk about, oh, when this is all over, I got to take you out to dinner. You've just been awesome. That just really, lets you know what you're doing is impactful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And not everybody becomes, a great friend. Sometimes it's just a really good transaction and you're happy with that. But I have so many friends that I've made over the last 10 years, like, that are true friends. I've vacationed with them now, but I met them through real estate. And so, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what is it tell us a story where you really got down, and then today, like I said, today you kind of just laugh internally about it and remember, like, man, that I was about to leave real estate. That really set me back, but it doesn't bother me anymore.
So I think just when I became a realtor, and I do care very much still, but I took everything on. And it made it hard to also have those conversations with people if something went wrong. And I would lie in bed at 2 a.m. thinking about things. But I had a transaction where a woman was moving down here from New York because she was going through a divorce. And I think she was kind of running away, wanted to start over. But she got here. We did a new construction home. And so there was a long process. And so I think she also had time to think and everything. And then when it finally was ready and she moved down here, I don't think it was what she envisioned. And so she was only in the house 2 months. And she called me and she was like, I don't want to be here. And so it was still a new construction neighborhood. So we already had that against us. She had a lot of personal things she was dealing with. And we went under contract. And the agent, and I know she didn't want to make this phone call either. She called me the morning, Christmas Eve morning, and said they're backing out. And that was really hard because it's Christmas Eve, but I didn't want to have it eat at me through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day to withhold that. But I also knew that it was going to impact her. And that was one of those moments that were like, why am I doing this? It's ruining my holidays. It's ruining her holidays. Like that was a hard thing. And so now but I also knew, because this happened 4 years ago. So at that point I knew it's not my fault. This is not, we'll get through this. I don't have to own all of this.
Right.
So
no, that's a great story. That's probably one of the best stories I've had. Definitely if there's been one greater, maybe, I don't know, but that's actually right to the point of what I'm talking about when it comes to grit. And you came to the realization that it is not you. You did all you can do. You're providing a service. You didn't get divorced. You didn't move from New York. That was her choice. The new construction neighborhood, maybe you could have led her somewhere else. But I would imagine today, obviously, I think every agent we talk about, if someone's buying a new construction, they better be there for the next 5 years.
Right.
Or it's gonna cost them money. To try to get out of it. Because you look at a lot of these new construction neighborhoods have houses that are sitting right now, that were just built 18 months ago.
Right.
And someone's trying to sell and get. But anyway, you did not create that. You just provided a service that she asked you to provide at the highest level. And that's the conclusion you came to. And now when you do have that, it's not that you don't have emotional feelings about it, but you have to come to your realization for you to live with your family and have a good Christmas is that it's not you. You're going to do, on the 26th, you're going to get out there and start that provide the service, but you have to sleep at night. And that was the realization. That's the grit I'm talking about. And I think if you're having a hard time with having tough conversations or dealing with the reality of things, that you need to consult with other agents and share your stories and realize how all of you are getting through these things.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's very true. It's not, you're not the only one doing this. You're not the only one having a deal fall apart. You're not the only one having a very stressed seller. You're not the only one dealing with market conditions of why would they come to this house when they're brand new ones being built still. It isn't helpful to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. On a regular basis. All right. Consistency. You're consistently doing the Buffini, we'll call it method. Is that what he called it? Whatever, the Buffini way, system, whatever. What do you think, though, from you personally, what are some of the things that you are doing, and it could be on a daily, monthly, weekly basis, but you do, that might be, a side thing to the Buffini, but that you are doing personally, though, do you think is important to your business? It could be getting up and running in the morning. I don't know, whatever it is, but you think is giving you the right frame of mind, the right mindset. What are you doing consistently in your business? You think that really, if you didn't do it, you would probably start to see a negative effect.
So I still have that mindset of education, learning more. So I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I do listen to real estate podcasts, but I listen to a lot of personal development podcasts, and I read personal development books. I think the more you work on yourself, the better you'll be, not only as a business owner, but as a realtor, to be able to help buyers and sellers manage their emotions, things like that. So I think having that consistency of personal development information coming in is very important.
I at different times, I've read more, obviously, after school than I ever did in school. I could on my hand can give you the number of books I read while I was in school. But after school, I've gone through different purges in my life where I'll get on a kick and go through a bunch of books. So what I'm expressing to is to the listener right now who may not be regularly picking up. I think people, when you say personal development, they immediately get, some people, they get if they haven't been doing it, they get negative, like, oh, you don't think I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough to do that. That's not why people read personal development books.
Correct.
I think people get a high off of it, because a lot of the personal development books, and I'm sure you read, are a lot of just positive energy.
Absolutely. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that's a great book for anybody to read.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins is just motivation.
Yeah.
Because real estate is hard, but life is hard. And so having that positive energy poured into you, I think is important.
Yeah. Well, if we did everything everybody ever told us, yeah, maybe we would be, Elon Musk. I don't know. It's possible, but we know, like Buffini, not everyone is going to follow the Buffini method. And that's actually, I don't think I finished my statement talking about those two people you mentioned that did it online. There's plenty of people who have gone through the Buffini, dropped out, just like they drop out of real estate. They just the light bulb doesn't go off. They're not consistent with it. They didn't stay with it long enough to see the fruits. The personal development thing is just this energy that keeps you going. Yeah, you're hearing Tony Robbins, and I mean, you can go through. I like John Maxwell. There's a lot of things they're saying to you, and sometimes you have to hear it 1,000 times before you actually go, you know what, maybe I should do that. I've heard 1,000 different authors tell me, that I need to be doing this, right? I think the big thing now is like affirmations and stuff like that, right? There's some people that they're doing it, and they're feeling good about themselves, and it helps them through the day, and they feel they're getting a return on investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's the principle of marketing, right? Like, you don't market to somebody one time and expect them to latch on it and to remember. You have to rinse and repeat. Well, you rinse and repeat with the personal development, you rinse and repeat with the educational classes, just like you do with your marketing.
Yep. Because at some point, a light bulb is going to go off. Buffini was early for you. Some people might actually have to go back and forth. They've probably been debating about whether to do Buffini for years. And then one day they're going to say, you know what? I just heard that podcast with Gail. She's doing Buffini. She's the 20th person that's told me I should do it. Maybe, all right, I'm going to get involved. Some people need that.
Absolutely.
That's the way it is. We talked about the cornerstone of your business here. What are let's get into, I'm going to finish up with what we got going on today. What are you doing today? Because you've been in the business long enough. You've seen some seasons in real estate. I think in the last, it was May. Actually, it was May of 22 that the interest rates went up. I think that really changed a lot of the market landscape. People started, whoa, hold on a second. No, we don't have free money anymore. I gotta actually, when I start quoting $3,000 payments to standard buyers, when before we're like, yeah, $2,100, $2,200, $2,400, right? Now you're talking $3,400, right? It's a big difference, and people, my parents, I remember refinancing them when I first got in the business, and they had a house down in Naples, and I don't know if the payment was going to be like $1,700 with taxes and insurance. Like, whoa, man, they never like to have a payment that big, right? Again, we got used to it for a decade having $1,800, $2,200 payments, and I'm talking just standard size home, $300,000 to $500,000, type thing. Now we're talking these huge different price points. So that happened in May of 22. We started to see the interest rates up. We got inflationary factors, which has really eliminated a lot of people's extra expendable cash. So they're not doing a lot of the little things that they used to do because the groceries are just costing that much more, type of thing. So we've seen those market changes. What are some challenges that you're seeing with some of your sellers and then some of your buyers right now with today, February 2025?
I think the expectations of both sides, buyers and sellers, don't necessarily match the market right now.
Aren't they always lagging, right?
They are. They are. And for buyers, and I get it. I mean, if you're paying the top of your budget a month, you either can't afford to then come in and do renovations, or you expect to already have it done. But a lot of people that I see and work with and relate this to sellers too, of, how to prepare your house for market. Buyers right now don't want a fixer-upper a lot of time.
Right.
And so, but also coming to realistic terms of, okay, but if this is the payment you want a month, you may need a fixer-upper. So I think just having those conversations of what is most important to you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they don't have a choice. It is monthly payment. All right. So then this is where we're looking. And same thing with sellers where they've lived, when you have a seller who's lived in their house a long time and has loved it, they don't see they need to do some updating. They need to do some things, and having that conversation. That's really what, with so much on the market right now, with inventory choices, you have to make yourself stand out. We have to be appealing. What are buyers looking for right now in move-in ready homes?
Right. That brings up a great conversation, and when you're going in on a listing appointment on these, because obviously that topic just came up, so you probably had something like that recently, right? Where you're having to have that conversation, because I think this is where your top producers lie. These are your if you want to call them the Jack's Real producers. If you're your top 500 in the greater Jacksonville area. I mean, everyone keeps saying 12,000 agents. I don't know if we still have 12,000 agents. That's a number everyone's been used for whatever, a long period of time. But if you're in that top 500, you are working, you are doing deals, enough deals in the course of the year to be and have enough listing appointments. But that conversation that you have to have with them, I think, separates that top 500 to anyone who's 1,000 or beyond there, and having that conversation. What is your mindset? Or if you can maybe even share a story to express it, how you approach that customer in understanding that you are the expert.
Well, and that's been growth for me. At first, I didn't want to upset them. I wanted them to like me. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, if I could get you $1 million for this home that we're going to list for $300,000, I would. But I'm not in charge of the market. So one of the things that I've had to grow on is they do want to hear my advice. They might not like it, but that's why they're choosing to work with a realtor instead of for sale by owner. They need that guidance. And mm-hmm. so to be confident enough that I have that expertise to be able to say it, I think has been growth for me. To be able to say, I don't like that I'm going to tell you this, but there's 9 other homes in this neighborhood for sale. We have to stand out. We're going to do that by price and by condition. We can't change the location, right? Like if, but that's how we're going to stand apart. Otherwise, we have 180 days on average in this neighborhood. You need to sell. We need to do something. And right. So just growing up enough in my belief that I have that has been helpful.
Right. Well, confidence, I think, so for a listener who may be listening in right now, who may be, back when you weren't confident mm-hmm. in there, what is a way that you would suggest or to help them gain that confidence at a little quicker pace than maybe you did?
So I think potentially, like if you're newer, asking to shadow. I've never been on a team, but I'm not afraid to ask people, can I go along with you? Can I be on a listing appointment with you? Because I have done that with agents. I've listened to them have those conversations. So, okay, the seller didn't take it well, but they still followed the advice. Or mm-hmm. I think to be able to learn from other people would be helpful. And then you just trial and error. It doesn't go well all the time. Right.
But to smoothen that learning curve to get it a little bit quicker, mm-hmm. Advising a new agent right now, maybe in licensing, maybe just got started or whatever, you just got to ask Absolutely. Some of those people. I mean, like you said, the worst case is say, no, I don't like to bring anybody with me on my listing appointment. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guarantee there's more that will say yes. Because what I have found is a lot of agents do have a little bit of ego, mm-hmm. and they want to show you what they believe they're They are the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that are out there on social media. So if you're in an office right now and you have an agent who's on social media bragging about, I'm headed out to a listing appointment or that kind of thing, ask them if you could tag along.
Absolutely.
Tell them you'll be the cameraman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I guarantee you they will say yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not to say that they're doing the right thing, but you could start to it's an at bat. You're actually seeing the reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually seeing the evaluation of the agent that you're shadowing. What needs to be done. What is their theory, where another agent might have another envision to it. But again, to circle back, the important thing there, ask. If you're a new agent, go on listing appointments with people. It's an at bat for you. You have nothing else to do. If you're not working on an actual transaction, be out with somebody who is. So and treat it like you were actually doing it. It's actually your transaction.
Absolutely.
But because I think everyone has, you have the imposter syndrome of like, hey, I'm not good enough. You have to break through that and realize, hey, I've done enough transactions. I've shadowed 20 times. I've gone on 20 listing appointments, which I guarantee is more than the average agent has done in multiple years, because there's so many agents out there that obviously didn't do any transactions this past year. So ask. The worst they could say no, but more will say yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the Wendy's, these, yourself, all the top agents I have on, the number one thing they all say is collaboration, collaborate. Raise the level of the quality of service that real estate agents are delivering.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be able to deliver that service, and they will fade off into the sunset. You will just naturally become rise to the cream of the crop, basically. Yeah. Marketing wise, your break down a couple of the things that you're doing. I assume you're doing some sort of newsletter.
So I do not do a newsletter. I do just the Buffini item of value, and I don't always love it, but again, it doesn't matter. It's just the consistency part. So, sometimes their topic of what it is, I'm like,
What does he call an item of value?
It may have something about specific to interest rates or the housing market. Sometimes it's the design trends of 2025. It's not always, they have their system of how to layer competence and care. It's just. That's
funny.
It's
the president and Elon were talking about competence and care the other day, and you just mentioned that. It's interesting.
I send that out. I don't do my own newsletter, but then the handwritten notes, I do client parties. So I do a summer party and I do a pie party.
Great topic right there. All right. So again, if you're an agent right now, not doing, because I've heard some agents have some really great success with these client appreciation parties. But when you first started, you didn't have a ton of clients.
I did not. My hairdresser came. My neighbor, who I told you lived 2 houses down, that said I'm never moving, she came. My parents came. And by that point...
So you held it at your house?
No, I did not. I held it at my office.
Okay.
I have learned over the years, I now hold them at my house because I almost guarantee that at least people who did transactions with me last year, they'll come because they want to see my house, right? Like they know I know their house. So everybody's curious. And then, of course, I do have the repeat people come. But people want to see where I live. And so I hold them in my house now. But I did not. I had it in my office for the first 2 years. And then I transitioned to my house. For the pie, for the summer party, I'm a member of Freedom Boat Club, and for years I did it at the boat club.
Yes,
and
we can tag Freedom Boat Club because I'm a member too. I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
I invite Bill to events. If you don't know anything about Freedom Boat Club, you do need to know. People come here for a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Boating is part of that lifestyle. Yeah. And even if they're not a boater today, maybe dream about being a boater, but no one has ever taught them how to be a boater. Yeah. Freedom Boat Club is where it's at. Plus, there's so many neighborhoods you can't tow boats or park boats in your driveway and so forth. Freedom Boat Club is so much better.
We've been members for 11 years, and so for years I did it at the Julington Creek Marina, and they would have somebody drive the pontoon boat. My husband, we would have a boat, and he would do the tube for the kids.
Yeah,
and I would be on the dock with the food and talking to people. But I stopped that in 2020, and then I didn't go back to it because while I loved it and people loved it, because I held it at the end of July, it never rained, but it would always threaten to rain. And so I would have people call, if they lived in Orange Park, they're like, I'm looking across the bridge and it looks like it's going to storm. And I'm like, no, come on. So I now switched to I do an ice cream party, but so I do a summer party and then
I'm totally with you. It like threatens to like 3 or 4 o'clock,
yes, yep.
and it's like, okay, just wait a minute.
Yeah.
Boom, it's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
And that the river is a huge weather thing. You may be having weather on the west side,
right?
And then by the time it crosses over, nothing, or vice versa.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I've experienced it. Yeah, that a lot. That's but to throw a little tag in, having them at your house, you didn't initially, which I don't think anyone probably should, but after you got a good group, now I think it really starts to pick up pace, in my opinion, because now when you invite someone into your house, you are truly creating a relationship, because you're inviting them into your dwelling. You might have gone out to dinner. Breaking bread with somebody is one important thing, but now actually breaking bread at your house is a whole nother level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 3 things you think agents need to be doing right now with the current market conditions, and this could be anything to how they're having their buyer broker agreement or their listing appointment. What are some of the things maybe you're doing now that maybe you weren't doing 18 months ago, but now as the more inventory we've got, there's some different things that you're doing?
So I've always been one to look at the hot sheet, look at things like that. I have my different buyers, how it'll send, I think you can set it up not to send you an email, but it sends me an email every night as well as them. I look at every one that comes through to see what, potentially I can call them and ask, hey, this looks like it's a good house. Did you see it? But also just to keep current on different neighborhoods. But now I look deeper into days on market, how many, homes are coming back on the market. Learning that, I think right now in this current market is important to be able to have conversations. So for buyers, it's like, oh, the house came on the market, something could be wrong with it. No, it's very common. This percentage of, I think, 2023 or 24, Jacksonville is one of the highest rated for contracts falling out in the area. Like a large amount of transactions fell apart and houses came back on the market. So to be able to reassure a buyer, like, oh, I was interested in that, but it's back on the market, something must be wrong. No, that it took, might, but probably not. So being able to have that information, and then days on market, of course, for sellers, like set the expectation. It could be here a minute. And if you don't want to be here a minute, what could we do? Well,
does the hot sheet also, it gives you some mental ammunition as someone, they see you during the course of the day. They know what you're doing. You run into a friend, or maybe you are, getting your hair done, and, people are just going to say, hey, well, what's going on? And if you have this verbal ammunition, this knowledge that, took you 10 minutes to read in the morning, to be able to regurgitate back to them and sound like, hey, this person sounds like they know what's going on. They're confident about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that that's important. Everybody, even if they're not part of your sphere, if they meet you, they want to ask, how's the market? What's happening?
What are you finding? Because you mentioned something there that just triggered my thought, and me being a lender. There's so many different reasons why homes fall out. Obviously, there's repairs that people don't want to deal with. Something wrong with the house, that's a reason for it to fall out. But that's not the number one reason. Hopefully they're just not backing out I think we had for a little while there where people were unable to get under contract on a house because inventory was so low, and the higher desirable homes, and they were getting multiple offers, and so people were settling for one home, and then they were 2 weeks into that transaction when a home they really liked came up. So we had that kind of situation going on, but now you have so much inventory to choose from. That's probably died down a little bit. But from a lending standpoint, are you seeing any challenges or something that, geez, I wish there was a product out there to bridge this gap?
I don't know I wish there was a product. I don't know what kind of conversations lenders and other realtors are having to set the expectations with the buyer. One of the things that I talk about with them is it doesn't matter your purchase price. It matters your payment. That's where you live every month. That's your pain point.
Right.
So I know, and
unless you want to significantly change your purchase price,
right.
then we can change the payment.
But sometimes, a lot of times, people don't know. Okay, they'll go and say, I won't need a pre-approval from a lender. You'll get that information. Maybe you'll have a conversation with them. I don't know, but a lot of times they just get their max price, and people tend to look at their max price, and then they don't realize, what does that translate to for your monthly payment with particular neighborhoods if they have CDD fees, the insurance on that home if it's an older home. They need to take into account, and I think preparing buyers during your first, your meeting with them, of what goes into feeling comfortable with that monthly payment. When my husband and I bought our house that we're in now, we said, this is what we need our pre-approval for to match this monthly payment. And she worked backwards, as opposed to saying, because I would have gone to my max budget. My husband did not want to. He said, this is our monthly budget. It's now changed because of insurance has, changed it.
Right.
But that's where we started with, because we knew we would get pre-approved for something that wasn't what we wanted to work with.
Oh, we certainly can approve people for a lot more than again, what their budget is, for sure. I mean, that's really not a challenge per se, unless they've got a ton of other debt. If they've got reasonable other debt, like a car payment or whatever, we definitely can give them a lot of people a very healthy payment. I don't know if you call it healthy or not, but from that standpoint. But this is a great topic actually to converse over with you. Because I think also, like you said, the fees and so forth, insurance, you're buying an older home. You get a new construction home that's totally up to current code. Insurance is going to give you a better break. So maybe you can buy more home because you can take, your insurance is going to be high versus your insurance may be twice as much if you're buying this older home and that roof is so many years old and so forth. So they also, when you're talking with a prospective buyer, they need to have a range. They may be able to, because of the neighborhood they want to look in, because that's the other factor, right? Well, where do you want to look? Well, I want to live in St. Johns County. Okay, so now you're like, okay, Julian Creek, St. Johns Golf, all these different neighborhoods. Well, I mean, your minimum level of a home, just the basic home in some of those neighborhoods, you're going to need X principal and interest payment, let alone the fees that are going to go on top of it. So that has a factor to play in it. So they need to have, well, I really want, to live in this area. Well, okay, so you need to be able to borrow this much because you only have this much to go down. So now this is where I'm at. And then, well, the fees in this neighborhood are more than the other. So they need to have probably a $200, $300 swing, in a possible payment, depending on what, are they going in a CDD or just an HOA, right? Those are definitely, I think that's, it's a conversation that the agent needs to have. And obviously hopefully they're working with a lender, but sometimes these people want to use their own lenders off in California and so forth. These on bankrate.com. I don't know why they do it, because trust me, but when it gets all done, you will pay the same.
Yeah.
I guarantee you. I've seen it happen. I saw it happen recently. Guy was told no points for this great interest rate. I said, yep, it'll cost you a point. I even called other lenders in town. I was still best priced just from friends I know. Hey, where are you at? Because they got this pie in the sky quote at closing. I was told by why were their closing costs that much? Because they paid a point. I told you that. But having that conversation and setting up, I think is important, especially now with interest rates so high.
Yeah. Because you might go under contract with a home. Okay, I had my pre-approval, and now I have this specific home, and we send the contract to the lender. They give the first information to the buyer, and they're like, "Whoa, this is not what I wanted."
Do you try to prepare yourself a little bit to have an idea? I mean, because I think agents could be better at really, when their clients looking at certain houses, going there and find out what the fees are. Maybe you get just a basic insurance quote from I have talked to insurance agents. They want your business. They want my business. We're the two referral sources for them. That they will work up a quick quote. Yeah, this is what it will look like, but maybe we get a wind mitigation. It might save them $50 a month or something, whatever. So they at least have a range of what that insurance is. Absolutely. You can look up the current taxes, strategize a little bit. I know I'm working on one right now where, actually it is an investment property, but the taxes were extremely low. It's only a $300,000 home though, but they were only paying like $1,200 tax, but you don't know what exemptions they may be getting.
Right.
So you need to prepare them. Well, we might see that go up a little bit.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared for that on the taxes.
That's I frequently have conversations with how the tax bill is going to adjust no matter what, your second year to your thing. And this is not uncommon in our area with being a military town. You have people who have 100% exemption.
Yeah.
So you can have extremely low tax bill, and they purchased it, a while ago. Now we're getting ready to jump to your purchase price. That's going to impact your payment.
Yeah.
So I'm 100%. Not giving them specifics, because I look to lenders to give them the specifics, but have that information of, you got to be okay because your payment right now is based off of this tax bill. It's not staying that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I will tell you, lenders are not perfect from the tax standpoint either. I mean, to really, if you feel you're in a situation where maybe someone's lived in the house a long time, they get, their exemptions, they're elderly, whatever it is, and they're paying really low taxes, you definitely want to call the tax office if you feel you're going to get a, like, hey, this house now is worth $700,000-$800,000. They're taxing it as if it's worth like $250. We may get to actually call the county and say, hey, what will this look like? Because it could put someone in a situation where they buy the house, and then tax bill comes in November or a year from now when they readjust the taxes, and all of a sudden, whammo! And now they're calling you saying, I can't afford this house anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I had that happen when I was brand new in real estate. I think lenders for new construction have gotten better, but they would try to get somebody in the house, and they would do it on the unimproved land, and then the next year they had this huge jump in their payment. And
that is, having worked for one of the largest builders in town, we had a calculation that we did. So if they're legit, and the recourse on them is someone could go in and pull a full class action on them, said, hey, you quoted these people all this stuff, you qualified them with this really low taxes, knowing that when the true tax bill came, it was going to be more, and they wouldn't qualify for the loan, and they could take them to the house. So some were on the up and up, because they know it could come back on them. Others, I would imagine, are doing what you're saying. They're trimming the corner enough to get that person approved, and just move that house at that moment in time. DeSantis did say something the other day. Actually, probably was yesterday. He was talking about property taxes in Florida, and he feels right now he needs to look at, well, I don't know. I think the meme was more, or the reel was for clickbait, to get rid of. I don't think you can get rid of property taxes, but I think this whole payment shock type situation where someone's been in the home and then they sell it, and all of a sudden the taxes go through the roof, is just not good. They need to get a little more control over the property tax situation. He was talking about, I don't know exactly what his details are, but it's in his focus right now. That's of good. How to get control, because I think it goes, Florida's becoming in a lot of areas unaffordable.
When the higher prices, when they readjust the tax bill, and then insurance is really high right now, and so that makes it very hard on people. Yeah, definitely need to be calling insurance. Insurance is like the very first thing I do. When I'm setting up a loan, I'm emailing the insurance agent saying I need a quote. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Type of thing, because then they also come back and tell us how old the roof is. We need that wind mitigation. Hopefully get as much discount as you can, but at least when you send the documents out to the client, you can say, hey, you need to be prepared for this, but if we can get some discounts, maybe we'll get down to this, but at least sets expectations.
Yeah.
So, Gail, I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you. No, I'm grateful to be here.
Well, it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. And Buffini, I mean, I think you just gave me this jolt this morning, talking about agents. And when I talk to so many, and I know so many out there are not doing so well. We know 71% or 4% didn't even do a transaction last year. And it is an industry that if you get in and get plugged in, and maybe for some of these agents who might be struggling, they need to plug into a Buffini type program.
Absolutely.
And follow it if this is what you want to do. Yeah. So appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.